The Sea of Galilee in Israel, is it a volcano caldera lake? Let's look at the geography. Well, let's look at this here. On the left-hand side, it looks like a cinder cone. When we think of the Sea of Galilee, we usually think of the Holy Land in respect of the events that took place there at the time of our Lord Jesus Christ and his disciples. And we don't realize that, yes, it's an area of volcanoes. Now this thing here, for example, on the left looks like a cinder cone, but we'll take a look at what is to be found there. This is an area of the Jordan Rift Valley. So-called the Syro-African Depression. It's an elongated depression between modern-day Israel, Jordan, and Palestine, and this geographic region includes the entire length of the Jordan River. From its sources, through the Hula Valley, the Sea of Galilee, the Lower Jordan Valley, all the way down to the Dead Sea, the lowest land elevation on Earth, by the way, and then continues through the Araba Depression to the Gulf of Aqaba, whose shoreline it incorporates, and until finally it reaches, of course, the Red Sea and the Straits of Tiran. The Jordan Rift Valley was formed many millions of years ago in the Miocene epoch, about 23.8 million years ago, when the Arabian Plate moved northward and then eastward away from Africa. North and east away from Africa. 1 million years later, the land between the Mediterranean and the Jordan Rift Valley rose so the seawater stopped flowing, flooding the area. Now, it's important that we know what is going on here, because this is also a prophecy of what our Lord Jesus Christ told us would happen right exactly at this area. He told us the future of what would be taking place here, and that future has to do with the geologic event that will be taking place. Now, the geological and environmental evolution of the valley since its inception in the Oligocene can be seen in a variety of sedimentary and magmatic rocks preserved in the deeper basins. The outcropping formations on the basins represent deposition and erosion phases. Now, the lowest point in the Jordan Rift Valley is the Dead Sea. It's the lowest point of which is about 2,590 feet below sea level. The shore of the Dead Sea is the lowest land on Earth, by the way, 1,300 feet below sea level, rising sharply about 3,300 feet to the west, and also in the east. The rift is a significant topographic feature over which a few narrow paved roads and difficult mountain tracks lead. The valley north of the Dead Sea has long been a site of agriculture because of water available and the numerous springs located in the valley flanks. The Dead Sea Transform, or the DST. The plate boundary here extends through the valley and is variously called the Dead Sea Transform, DST for short, or the Dead Sea Rift. This is a rift valley. The boundary separates the Arabian Plate from the African Plate, connecting the divergent plate boundary in the Red Sea Rift, and the East Anatolian Fault in Turkey, which is a slip shear fault. It gives very big earthquakes. The DST fault, the Dead Sea Transform fault, is considered to be a transform fault that's accommodated 105 kilometers or 65 miles northwards displacement of the Arabian Plate. This interpretation is based on observation of offset markers such as river traces, gullies, and archaeological features giving horizontal slip rates of several millimeters every year over the past few million years. GPS data give similar rates of present-day movement of the Arabian Plate relative to the African Plate. It's also been proposed that the fault zone is a rift system that is an incipient oceanic spreading center. So the ocean is spreading, the northern extension of the Red Sea Rift. This is one of the 7 volcanoes of Israel. This is Mount Bental of the Golan Heights. It was formed about 100,000 to 700,000 years ago, and it's a dormant volcano in the Hula Valley of Mount Hermon and the Golan. Last erupted 50 to 70,000 years ago, about the last time of Yellowstone. So we saw that this area basically is a fault line. The Jordan Rift Valley, all of this here, you can see from the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River flows. Jerusalem is around here, and it goes all the way down to the Dead Sea, passing all the way down this way to the Red Sea, as we can see here. Now, recently what's happened is that geologists have found, I think this was back in 2013, they found a 60,000-ton stone structure at the bottom of the Sea of Galilee. They say the giant cone-shaped cairn made of basalt cobbles and boulders built up to 1 meter long has left archaeologists baffled. Heavier than most modern-day worship, the structure is nearly 10 meters high, 70 meters wide. Okay, that's wonderful. They think it's something archaeological. They have not gone down there to see it, to touch it. This is by their sonar, their radar equipment. Now, it could very well be some kind of a deformation, though. And they say it's basalt cobbles and boulders. Okay, this is it here. This is basically what they think is the profile of it, and it's very easily seen from the surface of the water. It was first discovered, they say, in 2003 by researchers carrying out sonar survey, but divers have now been down to investigate further, publish their findings. Okay, maybe it is a current, maybe they say it was something that was on land and it sloughed off into the sea. Maybe it was some kind of a landslide or something. Could be a landslide. Maybe it's a formation, we don't know. And in the meantime, we've had a tremendous amount of drought because they've been using, as we know, this Sea of Galilee's fresh water, even though they call it a sea, it's not salt water as the sea is in the Mediterranean. For example, this is a freshwater lake. And this is what provides the agriculture of Israel, and of course household water, and all the water needs for Israel comes from the Sea of Galilee, and they've been depleting it very quickly. They've had plans to replenish it, perhaps by desalinating the seawater of the Mediterranean to replenish fresh water into the Sea of Galilee. Anyway, it is, as you can see, one of these islands has appeared in the Lake Kinneret, or the Sea of Galilee, because of the low water level. They said it's no longer hard to walk on the water because it's so low. You can actually say, they said, go from this side to here. It's less than the depth of your knee. You can actually walk to the island from this little shore here. So, as you can see, though, let's take a look at this. This is from a PDF of the Defensible Borders Golan Height, but I just looked at this. This is very easy to look at. This is the Sea of Galilee. Okay, minus 712 feet, and this is the height of Mount Hermon, 9,230 feet. Okay, I believe this is in meters, this is in feet. This is in meters, this is in feet, 9,200 and something feet. So we saw the structure that we said, the ancient structure, and now we come to what's going on around Galilee. Well, this is something very interesting. The horns of Hattin. We could take a look at this picture here. The horns of Hattin from the east. Sea of Galilee is in the background. That's the sea there. History. The Kurin Hattin is believed to be the site of the Battle of Hattin, Saladin's victory over the Crusaders in 1187. The Battle of Hattin was fought in the summer when the grass was tinder dry. Saladin's troops set fire to the grass after cutting off the Crusaders' access to the water in the Sea of Galilee. Can you imagine? Saladin built the Victory Dome on the hill somewhere. The German pilgrim who visited the site a couple of years later in 1217 wrote that the temple Saladin had erected to his gods after the victory is now desolate. In the early 17th century, ruins were found on the summit that appeared to be those of a church. Before 1948, an Arab village, Hattin, I guess it took this name from Hattin, lay at the foot of the hill. Excavations were carried out at the hill 1976 and 81. Now, some people believe, they say here, have identified this hill with the Mount of Beutitudes, where Jesus delivered the Sermon on the Mount. Writing in 1864, Ferguson described it as the supposed site because although its position corresponds to the particulars of the narrative, no one can declare with any certainty he gave the Sermon on the Mount in the exact spot. So, okay, this, though, is, where do we see that? Is a dormant volcano. Where is it? The Horns of Hattin. Is an extinct volcano with twin peaks overlooking the plains of Hattin in the Lower Galilee. That's the Lower Galilee there. This is the rise here, and that's the Lower Galilee, and that's the Sea of Galilee. That's the opposite shore, Jordan, I guess. Okay? These are the Horns of Hattin, or Hattin, as Saladin would call it, and this is an extinct volcano. An extinct volcano. Redirect here for the category extinct volcanoes. Okay. Extinct volcanoes are those that scientists consider unlikely to erupt again because the volcano no longer has the lava supply there. Okay. So that was a volcano. We saw that. Now we have basalt. What is basalt rock? It's igneous rock. Basalt is a mafic extrusive rock, is the most widespread of all igneous rocks, and comprises more than 90% of all volcanic rocks. Igneous rock is low in silica content, dark in color, comparatively rich in iron and magnesium. Okay, so that's our basalt. Here it is, iron and magnesium. That's what they found at the bottom of the sea, which they thought was a cairn constructed there. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. They still don't know how it got there. They say it must have sloughed off. It must have been on the land, and then some kind of a landslide took place from the earthquakes, and it lodged itself on the Sea of Galilee. Let's go to Mount Hermon. This is one of the dormant volcanoes that we said. This is Mount Bental of the Golan Heights that we said before. This is another one, Mount Perez of the Golan Heights, and this is right here, northwest of the Sea of Galilee. And this is Mount Hermon right here. We'll talk about that later, but this is a volcanic mountain located at central Golan Heights. It has an elevation about 3,048 feet, and the mountain is a southernmost series of dormant volcanoes that stretch up to the Golan Heights. And at the top of the mountain is a well-preserved crater, 200 meters in diameter, 115 feet deep, 200 meters diameter and 35 meters deep. So that's a blown off crater. And this whole thing here is a series of volcanoes that we said before. And let's go now to Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon. So this, as we see, that's Mount Hermon right there. We saw the series of volcanoes that they said were straddling to the east of the area. And that's Mount Hermon. And as we saw before, this is the Rift Valley. Mount Hermon is a snow-topped a series of mountains consisting of a mountain cluster anti-Lebanon mountain range. It summit straddles the border between Syria and Lebanon, and the water that comes from the snow melt going through the porous rocks and through the fissures and fault lines, coming out as springs and then making the rivers that feed into the Jordan Rift Valley and create the River Jordan water. So that goes all through the River Jordan, comes basically from Mount Hermon, melt snow. And there is a lot of course, in this area of very arid climate, they are clustering to get control of that mountain because that's a water resource. As we said before, the geography is a cluster of mountains, 3 distinct summits, and they don't have that much here concerning the geology, but it looks to me that it's a volcanic range. I mean, all these were volcanoes, dormant volcanoes, and that's it seems to be the biggest one there. Now, what is this? What is this? It seems to be, I don't know, it's surrounded, first of all, if we go to Google Map, let's go to our Google Map and pull out, or no, let's pull in, let's go in and have a view. Okay, let's have a view. Of what we can see around us. No, we're too high. Let's go down more. Okay, and take a look around. See what we can see. Oh, that's nice. Okay, let's take a look around. So I guess we can go in more, I guess. Okay. Let's try and go down a little bit more. Okay, we're almost at sea level on the Sea of Galilee. And let's go around. And this is what we see around us from Google Earth. Okay, and the depth of, and there we go, we're around again. Let's come back up north. Okay, so what we see is that we're in a valley basically, and from what I saw before, the depth of the Sea of Galilee is about 65 meters, about 100 and something feet deep. It's the lowest, it's a very low lake. And it's surrounded by mountains. Let's see, this would be the area. That must be Mount Hermon, right there. And if we pull in, okay, sorry. Let's see this. Mount Hermon cluster, mountain cluster, we saw that before. Okay, there we go. This area here that we saw before is all volcanoes, dormant volcanoes. So what is this? I still have not found any information as to what this is. But it's in between faults. In between the huge fault of the Rift Valley. If we go to, I believe I found this. Okay, this is it. This is a research study area with topography location of profile faults and deep boreholes of Lake Tiberias, that is the Sea of Galilee. And we see this is a borehole here. Borehole Metzer, that's the symbol of it right there. 3 boreholes they have. All these little black dotted dashes, black dashes are faults, as we see here. These are all fault lines, parallel to each other. and this one here horizontally and perpendicular to them. All this is fault zones, and they say that this here is an assumed fault, the red dash here marking the area where this Yarmouk River flows down into the valley. Yarmouk River, okay? It takes this shape from the fault line. All right, the bathymetry, okay, I was wrong, it's 256 meters, so it's pretty deep. That is very deep. And you have a tremendous number of faults, as you can see. All this is cracking up. And again here, it's splitting up, splitting and splitting, cracking every which way. Now, this was the prophecy that we had. There would be a huge earthquake. Huge earthquake. Let's go down. Okay, that's the Dead Sea right there, like you can see. And after that, it flows into the Red Sea. But okay, we saw that already. Looking at the Sea of Galilee again, because I can't find that much information, we're looking for geothermal energy, hot springs along the area. Now, let's see here where we have, this is just for reference, this is Jerusalem here. It's about 18 miles from the River Jordan. This is Mediterranean Sea on the other side, as we saw. Okay, on Google Map. And this is the Sea of Galilee as you go north. We already saw that this area here is Mount Hermon. We saw it before. Here it is, Mount Hermon. And that this area here was flanked with dormant volcanoes. I did not go into Mount Tabor to see if that's also a dormant volcano. I bet you it is, but I will go into that as well. Now, these are we have hot springs in Jordan around here as well, as I saw before, and we have hot springs here as well. These hot springs have been there, hot baths, spring baths from antiquity, from before Jesus' time. This is Tagba. This is where he had the miracle of the fish and the loaves were performed. This is here, the Tagba hot springs, and the Tiberias hot springs, which are still in use today. There are still people that go there. There are tourist locations as well. And as we said before, this is all fractures. Fractures, and the river here is, of course, another fracture. And you have horizontal fractures on the map, horizontal fractures and vertical fractures. They're all perpendicular to each other, running every which way. So this is a very seismic area. And that's Mount Hermon feeding all the water to the Sea of Galilee, all the rivers flowing all the way through the Jordan, making up the water of the Jordan. Here we are now at Mount Tabor, just southwest of the Sea of Galilee. This is where the transfiguration of our Lord Jesus Christ took place. Now, I, for one, it's a mound in the middle of nowhere. I, for one, would happen to think that it's some kind of a cinder cone, or I don't know, some kind of a magma elevation. This deformation looks to me, it just cannot be just sediment reaching it, piled up there. This person here is from Nigeria, and he says it's not a volcano or volcanic mountain, it's just like a little hill, an isolated rock hill. I don't agree with him. This is the Dead Sea transform that we were looking at. This is it right here. This is the Mediterranean Sea. This is Israel, and that shows the Red Sea here. This is the Red Sea here. This is where the huge fault line is. So here we are back again at Google Map, Jerusalem, the Dead Sea, and the Jordan River, the Sea of Galilee, and the spots here showing that we have hot springs, which means geothermal energy. And as we saw before, we have dormant volcanoes flanking it, hot springs here, dormant volcanoes here, Mount Tabor would be around here. I would venture to say that that is a volcano as well, one of the dormant volcanoes. And here we have Mount Hermon. I would say that that's a volcano as well. That's too high up not to be. Because this is an area that had tremendous seismic activity and volcanic activity. Also, we know that Golan Heights has a tremendous amount of crude oil, and Israel is tapping it. And you have, of course, everywhere you have fault lines like this, you have a tremendous amount of crude oil. We saw that, of course, with all the areas that have subduction zones, just like this has as well. The plates smashing and rubbing against each other. And we also have, of course, the subduction zone on the west coast, the Pacific plate underneath North American plate. That should have a huge amount of crude oil on the west coast, but I don't understand why it's not being tapped. Well, we know it's being tapped in Alaska, but why is it not being tapped on the west coast? If they look for it, I'm sure they're going to find tremendous reserves there. Now, as for me, I still don't have my answer. Is the Sea of Galilee a volcanic crater lake? It looks to me that it is. Unless it's just an area that is filled in with water from the mountain that happens to be on the fault zone of the Jordan Rift Valley, and it's not a caldera. I don't know. If anyone has an answer to that question, please let me know. It could be just a depression from the Rift Valley that has filled up with the water flowing from Mount Hermon, as opposed to being a caldera of a volcano. I have no idea. It could be an imploded volcano caldera. I have no idea. What is that? What is that? Since we're here, let's go and see what that black thing is. This is the desert, the Jordan Desert, of course. What is this? That looks like a volcanic field to me. Doesn't it to you? If anything looks volcanic, that does. This is in Jordan. Look at that mess. Looks as if it spewed out from this and ran over everything. Who would even know if it took place? I mean, there's nothing there. Nothing. This is in Jordan, by the way. Jordan, Damascus is there, Damascus, Syria. Okay, wow, okay, that is huge. That's almost twice as big as the Sea of Galilee, that thing there. Okay, we'll look into that another time. So, I'm sorry if it took a long time, but someone gave me a comment concerning a borehole in Yellowstone that is deforming, shows deformation, borehole 602. And that brought me, I went to search for that, and it brought me to the boreholes in the Sea of Galilee, and I just wanted to get into that area. And of course, the prophecy is that this will split. The prophecy of our Lord Jesus Christ, when his disciples asked him what will be the signs of the end. And he said there will be earthquakes and signs in the heavens and rumors of wars, nation against nation. But these are all the signs of end times, and he says that there will be a huge earthquake, such as never before on earth. And where's Jerusalem? And Jerusalem the valley of Kidron, that's between Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives, will split. I'm not going to look into those fault lines. I'm sure there is a fault line there. It will split in two, and that will be the coming of the second coming of the Son of Man, of our Lord Jesus Christ. So it will be a geologic event on this area. So if you have any more information on what this is, the Sea of Galilee, Lake Kinneret, Lake Tiberias, if it is actually the caldera of a blown-in volcano, or if it's just a depression that collects the snow melt from Mount Hermon, I don't know what it is. I thought that was very interesting. Thank you for your patience. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.